Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, hi.
Hello.
There's two of you, Marianne.
Yes, there are, so that I can do fancy things.
Okay, so the world is twice as good today as it was yesterday.
Oh, how about that? So it's easier to share my screen from the desktop. So I'm a desktop person. So some of us are, but this monitor
Not here to judge.
No, that's right. This monitor doesn't have a camera. So, okay. And I swear to God, I unclicked waiting room, but, and it's, wait till you see all the fancy things I can do. So, okay.
Stop video.
Marianne, I see there's lots of other Brad's here and maybe some other trustees are coming. I'm gonna hop out at 6:30. Okay.
Okay.
So if it seems like I need to sort of go through the costs thing, maybe you could let me know.
Yeah.
Before
Okay.
then. Yeah.
Right. We can see if there's a question.
Yeah,
And you know,
exactly.
I can also share it.
Right, because you have it.
I have it. Yes.
So,
Okay. Hi, Greg and Emily.
Hi. We.
I like when we
Hello.
get two in one square.
Yeah. It's more economical that way.
Yes. Yes.
Bonus.
Okay, so it's just 6. Let's wait one more minute and then we'll start. We'll start at 6:01, and then if people come in, they do. Kate, could I make you the co-host and then you can watch and let people in from the waiting room?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see.
We muted.
You're not.
No.
All righty. Did that work? I think it did. Yes. Okay. All right. So, well, hello, everyone. Okay.
Hi.
So we're not, all right, it's 6:01. We're not expecting a big group of people. I'm going to turn off my video. Actually, it's probably fine. I'm going to go ahead and just share a screen. Let's see. I'm going to start with this one. So we're here to talk about the program areas that we've already that I already have drafts of in the library building program. And so I thought I would just start with talking just a tiny bit about what a library building program is, and then, you know, so that we're all on the same page. So a library building program is a living document. So it's not like etched in stone, and whatever is written in there is what, you know, what will happen in the end. It outlines our needs, preferences, and aesthetics in a new library building. And it's the instructions to the architect, who then takes all the components in the building program and then tries to put them together as building blocks to create a design that meets all of the needs expressed in the program. So we have to be very detailed and very clear about what we want and what matters to us. And then the architect takes that as instructions and uses it to create a design. What informs the building program? So community input, data from recent and current use, research about other libraries in towns similar to Shutesbury, and best practices in the library world. So what have people been asking for? What have we been doing? What do we hope to be able to do if we're able to provide an adequate facility? So how will the building program be used? The gross square footage and the architectural details will be used to help determine the cost per square foot of the proposed project. That's in addition to, being used to inform the design. And now where'd my little thing go? And page 2 of how it will be used. If we're awarded the grant and town meeting agrees to fund the local portion of the project costs, a building committee will be formed. And then the building committee will be guided by the building program as it undergoes the design process in conversation with townspeople and the architects. So then it's the building program is it's what we want in a new library, and it helps guide the people whose job it is to design the new library. And let's see, throughout the design process, if we get to the design process, we'll collect more input from the community and continue to stay mindful of service trends in small public libraries. We'll continue to carefully consider data as the design process unfolds, and adjustments will be made, and all decisions will be made in open public meetings. Things that will stay the same, the gross square footage will stay about the same, and the not to exceed dollar amount voted on by town meeting won't change. So we won't suddenly, like this, the town won't be putting in money that it didn't vote to put in. And I think that's it for that. Does anybody, does anybody have any questions about that so far?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm going to go on to my next screen. Okay, so these are the areas that right now we're thinking we're going to need in our new library. And maybe I'll make it bigger.
Yes, it should embiggen it. Bottom right-hand corner.
I'm going to do it the way I know how to do it right now.
Okay.
And then maybe there's another way. But anyway, here we go. Okay. So there'll be an entrance and a lobby and a circulation desk and some staff workspace and a director's office. And then there'll be a library of things collection area. So we've gotten a lot of people saying, let's loan cake pans and tools. And we already loan kayaks, and we already loan chemistry kits and a telescope. So we'll think of some of those other things that people have been asking for and what it makes sense for our community to have. And then as we begin to develop that collection, we'll see what actually gets used. And then we'll have a place for that kind of stuff. And that's a really trendy thing in libraries, but I don't think it's a thing that's going away. So we'll have a teen room, we'll have adult stacks and an adult media collection. We'll have an adult quiet reading area, a computer area. We'll have magazines. We'll have a children's room, and there'll be some dedicated parenting area in the children's room, a community meeting room, a kitchenette, restrooms, a small study meeting collaboration space, a community meeting room, equipment closet, a telecom closet, a janitor's closet and trash room, a mechanical room, some outdoor program space, an outdoor storage area, and a parking area. So those are all the spaces I have that seem to make sense in a small public library. I'll stop sharing that. Does anybody have any questions about the list? No?
Marianne, I have a question.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll put my video on here. Wow. Okay, it's my phone, so please excuse it. I'm wondering if you obtain all acquisitions fully processed, or if you do any covering or book repair or any behind the scenes stuff, because it doesn't look like there's any behind the scenes space. Would that be something that you would do in your office and that basically only you would do?
There's a staff workspace
Oh, okay.
in the list. Yes.
Okay, I didn't see that. Thank you.
And remember now that all of that happens right here at this tiny little desk. So, it's, and you'll see when we get to the community, when we get to the circulation desk area, I don't have dimensions for the circulation desk because I was trying to make it big enough to do all the things it currently does. And I have to remember that there's also going to be a staff workroom, but the library is also going to be staffed by the same size staff we have now. And most often, there's one staff person who needs to be at the circulation desk. So the circulation desk will have to be big enough to do some technical services kind of work, because we're not going to be able to dedicate a staff person to just stand at the circulation desk and do nothing but circulation when, and you see this at small public libraries all the time. People are doing something in between helping library
Sure.
users. Okay, Les, did you have a question? You're muted, Les.
Yes, I do. And Kate and Mary Ann and Brad are beginning to learn that I'm kind of like a dog, like a bone. At the trustees meeting yesterday, I asked if there was a baseline in terms of square footage, in terms of where we're going forward with developing the building program. Because I understand that the square footage of the building program is going to ultimately determine much of the square footage cost of the library itself. So the different components that we are going through or talking about, there's X square footage here, X square footage here, X square footage here. And I'm just wondering if there's some kind of a baseline that Mary Ann and the trustees are working with. I was looking at the previous building program, 2009, and there's 5,500 square feet, which is a relatively small amount based on kind of what I'm hearing about what we want for a new library. So my question is there a baseline? And is there an ongoing count of the square footage leading up to the submission of the building program? And to what extent will people in the community be informed of that?
There's not a baseline. So right now we're working on determining the spaces that we need, which I think we have a pretty good list, and then how big each of those spaces needs to be. And then we'll get to the end of the list and see what it all looks like. And then add it all up, and then you have to add 30% for walls and hallways and all kinds of wacky stuff. And then we'll see what it looks like, and then we'll massage it. So the 5,500 from the last plan, I wouldn't feel capable of qualifying that as big or small, or anything at all. So it's interesting, like you qualified it as a relatively small amount of space, and I, I'm not using that as a guideline. It is something I'm aware of, and I'm also aware of square footage of other public libraries, but really what I'm trying to do is design spaces that will meet our library service and programming needs, and then see what that all looks like when we get to the end. Let's see, so somebody else has a question. Kate?
Well, I just wanted to add to that because as I understand it, and Marianne, obviously you know a lot more than I do about this, but as I understand it, there's two sort of factors that go into the total cost, and one is the square footage and the other is finishes. And one thing that I've heard a lot, and we discussed in length yesterday, was like I think the previous building had hardwood flooring. Is that right, Marianne? And we're not talking about that here. We're talking about resilient flooring, which I believe is cheaper. It's not, and so I think when the combination of the trustees' obligation to work on a building program that creates a library the town can afford and support is combined with the MBLC's stated goal of building, helping us, whoever succeeds in the grant application, to build, an efficient, appropriate library. I think so it is the square footage, and I think it's the finishes as well that are going to be determinants of our cost. And we're really conscious of both. And the other thing I think I said last night, and I'll just repeat for other folks, is well, we at our trustees meeting discussed last night was, oh, have I lost my train of thought? I think I have. Sorry, I'll be quiet now.
Anybody else, or should I go on? Okay. All right. So now I'm going to share. I'm going to start going through the programming spaces. Here we go. All right. So does everybody know how, when you're sharing a screen, like how to get rid of all everybody's faces on the side if you want to be able to see the whole screen? I'm sure everybody here knows how to do that. Okay. So the first area is the vestibule and lobby. This is where you come into the building. And you'll see right on here in red that this is a draft. Okay. So the whole entire building program is a draft, until December 3rd. And then again, it's never written in stone. It's a guideline. It's not, I don't know, it's not a dictate. So this is where people come into the library. And so either when they're coming in to use the library during library open hours, or coming in to use the community meeting room for programs that might happen outside of normal operating hours. So there's access to that meeting room that doesn't allow access into the library for that. There, steady flow of traffic. It's barrier-free access for people of all ages and all abilities, including people who use wheelchairs and families with strollers. The vestibule and the lobby have a room for about 10 people. There'll be a bulletin board and a display fixture for pamphlets and magazines about local interests, and clear signage visible from the outside, a dedication plaque, a bench in the lobby. I have to take that exterior bench out of here. I moved it. And then a lockable display case in the lobby. And then the entrance and the lobby are close to the circulation desk, the meeting room, the restrooms, and the parking, but then they're far away from the quiet study rooms and the quiet reading area. So you see how these are just things that are instructions to the architect so that they know that, we want this noisy space to be far away from the quiet spaces. This will be about 200 square feet. And the entrance, so then architectural details, this is where we put in functional stuff and then also our aesthetic. So, of course, identifiable from the from the parking area. You know, double 3-foot doors, glass doors at the exterior, and then a second set in the interior. You know, it should be a welcoming and inviting passageway. And it should be proportional to the rest of the library. It's going to have one of those recessed walk-off mats to get the dirt and the grime off of everybody's shoes. It'll have durable flooring and motion sensor light in the vestibule, so that people aren't looking around for a light switch, staff coming and going at night. Overhead lighting and electrical outlets in the vestibule in the lobby. Any questions about that? That's
I have a
pretty-
quick question.
Okay, good.
Regarding the doors, if cost isn't prohibitive, are you looking at sliding doors that can just slide out of the way so that they don't take up space when they swing open and closed?
So sliding doors would then have to have room to slide.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. So, but you know what? We can, you know, I'm sure that's a question that will come up. And I can think about that. So I'm gonna pull up the Word document and see if I can, I'm gonna just add question mark sliding.
And, you know, like the grocery store does, or like a lot of
Right.
stores that you walk into.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Do they have sliding doors? Okay, I guess they do. All right. I'll start paying attention to that. Okay, next we have, all right, this is my favorite area of the library. Okay, already, and all it is a piece, it's not even a piece of paper. All right, I haven't even printed this. So reception, browsing, and new book special collections. So this is a welcoming area close to the rest, you know, between the entrance and the circulation desk. Patrons are greeted by staff and they orientate themselves to the library. There are several low shelf units that display new and seasonal materials and special collections. A special tiered table will display some of the Library of Things collection. And visitors will meet and greet each other in this area before moving to other areas or checking out. There, you know, is room for about 8 people milling about here. There are a couple of comfy chairs in this spot, and a display unit. Let's see, and then it just says, then you have to just say what the shelving is. Everything in the whole library is going to be mobile, or most things are going to be mobile. So the shelving and the display unit are on casters so that they can move around depending on what's happening at the time. And there's display space on top of those shelf units, so that people can see things. There's room for 768 books here. And this is close to the entrance and the circulation desk, far from the study room. It's about 400 square feet. It has resilient flooring, overhead lighting. It's close to windows, so it's got some natural lighting, but not skylights or an atrium. And this is a cozy, welcoming space that visitors encounter when they first enter the library. And that's it for that. Any questions about?
Yes. What's resilient flooring?
So resilient flooring is, it's not carpeting and it's not hardwood flooring, but it's so I think of it as like marmoleum, which, like linoleum, is a resilient flooring. It's very durable. It's easy to clean. And there are brands of linoleum. It's a natural product, and there are brands of it that don't use any glues or adhesives. So that's what resilient flooring is. So it's more economical than wood flooring. It's more durable than carpeting, and there are natural products that are safe for people with allergies.
I have a couple questions about that.
Okay.
Does it dampen sound like
Um,
carpet would?
no.
Okay.
Okay.
And is it like in small enough units that just a single piece could be replaced and you don't have to worry about replacing the whole carpet if there's a big stain or something like that? Does that work?
Well, right. So, yes, there you can get resilient flooring that comes in squares like carpet squares do. So far, I haven't put carpet anywhere in any of the areas, because carpet is easy to get dirty. It's harder to maintain. It's really bad for people with indoor allergies. And so, it would increase the maintenance cost. So I'm trying to avoid using carpeting. But when we get to the value engineering part of it, so value engineering is when you're really choosing all of your finishes and everything, and you'd say, oh, well, I'd really like, all all hardwood flooring, but we already know we can't afford that. So we're using the resilient flooring. The resilient flooring is more expensive than carpeting. And really the reason why you see carpeting in so many public places is because it's cheap. But then there's a trade-off of having it be more expensive to maintain or
Okay.
looking crummy. So anyway, so we'll, and that's the other thing too. It's, we will have to make trade-offs, but we're in the beginning of these stages too. And then the thing is, if we were going to use carpeting, we'd want to use a natural product carpeting and not, something with a lot of chemicals that would off-gas really icky chemicals, right? So that kind of carpeting might not be cheaper than resilient flooring, right? So, right. So, I have a neighbor who knows a lot about multiple chemical sensitivities, and she's willing to research products for us, which is really wonderful. So
I will also.
I know you will, but I wasn't volunteering you, but I will if I have to. So, okay. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, well, I want to be able to go into the building, so.
I want you to be able to go into the building. So, okay. And this is the thing. I want everybody to be able to come into this building and to be comfortable in it. Okay. So on to the circulation desk. And so what do you do at the circulation desk? You check things in and check things out, and you do reader's advisory, reference, program registration, interlibrary loan processing, printing, scanning, copying, faxing, new materials processing, program preparation, and security are all performed from this one central location. 2 staff, 6 patrons. That would likely be a staff person and a volunteer. There's very little staff overlap that happens here. So the circulation desk, so here's what I've done. I've described the circulation desk instead of putting dimensions. In a small public library should be large enough to accommodate multitasking. Tasks such as creating promotional materials, take-home kits, and processing new materials will be performed while also serving the public. So the circulation desk will require to have one ADA height section with a self-checkout. We're not required to have the self-checkout station there, or have a self-checkout station, but I'm putting a self-checkout station in so that we have flexibility to decide what we want to do when the time comes. And if you do have a self-checkout station, it has to be at an ADA height desk. And then we want a standing counter height section with a staff port. And I can see that I wrote it's large enough to accommodate other staff functions. So I'll do some editing there. And then there's a slot for returns with a mobile return box that's easy to pull out so that you can pull things out to check them in. And then the desk is open on the side, so the staff has easy access to the rest of the library and can, come and go easily. And And then there are some shelves and some drawers. The circulation desk is modular and flexible. And the electricity is aligned with where the desk is located. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and then you've got cords running all over the place. And there's a printer copier that's placed at the end of the counter that's accessible to the staff and the patrons, so it can be a self-service thing: printer, copier, scanner, fax machine. There are 2 seats for the staff. And then, so then you talk about furniture. So, we have to say that there are going to be 2 rolling office chairs and a trash bin and a recycle bin. And then shelving for 100 interlibrary loans. That has to be more. When I estimated how many interlibrary loans there would be, I counted on a light day. And there are 100 interlibrary loans waiting to be picked up here now. So we need to have more than that. Let's see. So there's a trend in public library service where people have self pickup of their holds. So the holds are accessible to the public and the staff. So somehow the interlibrary loans will be if we're going to have a self-checkout station, the interlibrary loans will be accessible to the public without them having to come behind the desk. There's flexible shelving for the Library of Things collection. And let's see, and behind the desk. So some of the library, thank you, Kate. Some of the Library of Things collection is out, on display, and then some of it's just behind the desk and people would come and ask for it. And then we'll have a charging cart with storage for laptops and tablets at the circulation desk. And then we'll have, 2 computers. It might be 1 computer and 1 self-checkout station, barcode scanners, a receipt printer, which we don't have room for now, a panic button, a lockable cash drawer, a place to promote library programs and services. So a bulletin board or some kind of thing like that. Removable plexiglass sneeze guards. That's not something that was in our plan 10 years ago. And then some double-sided book trucks and a wall clock. And of course, the circulation desk is next. It's near the entrance and the children's room, the new book and special collections browsing, the staff workroom and director's office. And it's distant from the quiet study area. And there's about 300 square feet of space. And then the architectural details. So it's centrally located with clear sight lines to all areas of the library. It has resilient flooring. It has operable windows to provide natural lighting, ventilation, and views to the parking area and walkway so staff can see visitors as they approach the library. Overhead lighting, open floor space for moving book carts and delivery bins on a cart and people. And it's separated from the staff workroom by a wall with large windows so staff in the workroom can see into the circulation area. And then it has electrical outlets for the staff computers and the charging port. Any questions about that?
I have questions. Sorry.
Okay, good.
So is the circ desk going to be movable?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, do you think that you need a more flexible arrangement for the electric power? For example, a drop ceiling where you can easily have posts coming down, or something from the floor, or is it all going to be wireless? I mean, how are you going to maintain flexibility with the power situation, which you can't necessarily predict right now? Did you guys think about that?
So that is something that that they've talked about drop, ceiling electricity that drops down.
Right.
And and I can add that. Is this the Word document? It is.
I mean, it's not beautiful, but it's flexible and cheaper than
Right.
other options, like
Right.
drilling through the
Right.
floor later or something like that.
Right. I've added it. and so that we can incorporate it into the plan, and have those conversations with the architects at the time.
Yeah, they know. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have another question.
Okay.
Do you think you need any space like for the book trucks and the book drop cart and stuff like that? Like when they're not being used, do they need a space to live?
Well, I was just sort of picturing that there would be wall space behind the circulation desk,
Oh,
and
okay.
that, returns would go directly onto the book cart. And
Okay.
then, and then the book cart. And the reason there would be two of them is, one might get full and then get brought out into the body of the library for returns to happen. And then there's a second one. And so, so I just thought that there would be enough space that those book carts could be there, could get loaded up. And then there's room for the delivery bins. You should see us trying to move the
Yeah.
delivery bins around now.
Yeah.
So I would like
Okay.
those to be on a cart. That would be easier to move around than the way we do it. But those would come in, maybe there would be a door into like a staff workspace that the delivery bins would get delivered to, and then they would come out and they wouldn't have to go through a circuitous route like they do.
Yeah. And tables would be really good, so you don't have to pick up the bins
Right. Or, or a
or
cart.
load them even onto a cart, maybe.
Yeah. So yes, something, like the place, we could design a place for the drivers to drop off the bins, although they don't want to be lifting the bins either. They just like to bring them in on their hand truck and then plunk them down and go. So, yeah, we manage the bins now. It's going to be a lot easier to manage the bins with even, any more space than we have now. Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yes, Marianne. Is the plan, in the past, I think maybe not the last one, but the plan before that, was to have the visibility throughout the public area by the person at the desk, the staff there. Is that still the case, even though there may be separate rooms?
Well, when you're thinking of rooms, they're sort of going to be, they will be rooms, but they're going to be wide open, so it won't be like a room with a single door or even a double door, like it'll be sort of like like that section over there is the children's room, and there may be some wall to it, but it's really going to be, it'll be pretty wide open. And yes, it's very important that from the circulation desk that person has clear sight lines to everywhere in the library. It's important for everybody's safety.
Right. So if there's a meeting room that might be used after hours,
Right.
Does that mean that the entire library will be open, or will there be a way to close off parts that you don't want people going into?
So the meeting room, that would be able to be closed off. There would be, so I'm hoping that there would be double doors, sliding doors, that can be open during the day, and, or open when the library is open. And then when the library is closed, those doors would be closed and locked. And then if there were a noisy program happening in there, the door would be closed and it would be a good sound barrier. And then anytime there would be a program happening, there would be a staff person there.
And the bathroom would be accessible to that meeting room when the library is closed?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, yes. Good. Okay. Should we move on to the next area? Okay. So next we have a study collaboration room. So this is a small room where, somebody who wanted a place to do quiet studying, or maybe a couple of people, a tutor and a student, maybe a group that wants to have a small meeting, and maybe somebody who works from home and wants to get out of the house and come have someplace else to be while they're working, or somebody whose internet is down. There are a lot of reports of internet interruptions today in Shutesbury. And this is a room where if somebody has a telemedicine appointment, and they either don't have internet or a computer, or their internet is down, they could come and have this private space to do their telemedicine appointment. So that's what this room is for. It's going to be large enough that 8 people could be in there. There'll be 2 small tables that seat 4 people each, so there'll be 8 chairs. There'll be data ports and electrical outlets, and Wi-Fi. It'll be close to the circulation desk, distant from the children's room and noisy areas. It'll be about 150 square feet. It'll have an exterior window, resilient flooring, a door with a window. So this is a room that the door will be closed, but it'll have a window in it. It might be a full glass door. It'll have good acoustical separation and dimmable overhead lighting. And this is something we didn't really have in the last plan. And this is something that really is something that other library directors have said that they wished they had. They had a new library, and all of a sudden they had somebody coming in looking for study space, and they didn't have a quiet study space. And it's a trendier thing now, and it really seems like a worthwhile space to include.
Could I say something?
Yeah.
It's trendier now because there's a trend now where everybody has their phone with them, and that can really raise the noise level in general in a space. So where in the past libraries were assumed to be all quiet all the time, it's not like that anymore. So you do need a space that's designated as quiet.
Yeah. And that's part of what this is for too. Okay. All right. I'll keep going. And I don't have all of the program spaces done, so we're not going to be here forever. Meeting room or multi-purpose room. So this is really, this is one of the big spaces. So we have a lot of programs. We're going to pretend it's before COVID. And when we used to have a lot of programs in person, we had movie night, and we had fitness classes, and we had craft classes where we made, where 12 people were in a room and each had a whole table to make a scarf or prints or baskets. We have pop-up science museums for children. We have so many wonderful programs. And this is the place where all of this stuff is going to happen. And in our last plan, I believe this room was designed to comfortably seat 80 people. It was a big room in the last plan.
Yeah.
And this time I've decided that we're going to make this room for 50 people because that's still generous. And we're going to design it in a way so that those big double doors that open into the rest of the library can be overflow space. So, so if too many people show up for your class, you can say, well, you can come stand out here. And this is something, so the Wendell Library, while their room is really small, it does open into the rest of the library, and they do a lot of overflow people out into the body of the library for programs. Will there be times? So now this room was 1,000 square feet in the last plan, and we have it at 700 square feet in this plan. Will there be times when it's not big enough? Probably, but that won't be the norm, there'll be a time here and there when we wish the room was bigger. But most of the time, this room will be big enough and serve us really well, and we'll have that overflow space. And if we're going to have a really big program, which we don't do that often, we can use the elementary school gym. Or we just don't plan really big programs. So So let's see. So earlier today, I think Brad, you asked me why there were 75 stackable chairs when the capacity is 50. And there are 75 chairs because I'm thinking of that overflow space or that outdoor programming space. Les, you have a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Not anymore.
No, you just
have-
muted yourself. Okay.
I have such trouble with this. So I think the other day you mentioned that this 700 square feet is comparable to the meeting room in the town hall in terms of square footage and space.
It is. So the meeting room in town hall, I think is a little bit bigger, but it has a lot of furniture in it. So if I measure the room in town hall without that furniture, I get about this space. And the meeting room in town hall, is big enough a lot of the time. So, okay.
Can I say something about that? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Les, are you still talking, Les?
No, I'm done, neighbor.
Okay. I'm not that good at math, but I'm wondering, like, reducing it to 700 square feet for capacity of 50 looks like it's proportionally less space per person than when you had the other plan with 80 in 1,000. Check my math,
Yeah.
please.
Right. And so when I did it, yeah, it may be, so that the thing about occupancy is there's always a range when you're planning the amount of space per person. So when you plan the amount of space for a seat, it's 10 to 15 feet. And then this room is generously sized for 50 people. So I'm picturing 50 people and there's room up front for a table with a panel of speakers and a table in the back for literature. So
Good.
I've been in a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
And I've run a lot of programs. So again, so could Marianne Antonellis, your library director, make good use of a bigger room? Yes. But we want to build a building that's efficient, economical, and, meets our needs most of the time and not oversized. And can we make this flexible by having a big wide open, double doors on the
Yep,
center of one side so that there's some overflow? Yeah, we can do that. So,
Yep.
yeah, okay. So,
I'm sorry, can I just ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
Does this also accommodate possible ongoing problems with need for spacing, like for COVID?
so I was not thinking about spacing, like social distancing.
Yeah.
And I think, so I think if we're thinking about COVID, then you're going to have reduced capacity in programs.
Mhm.
Or no, there aren't a lot of libraries that are really having a lot of indoor programming yet. But there are some. We will get, we will have an excellent ventilation system.
Yay.
In this new library. I mean, that is just going to be standard in new construction. And if, so when the next pandemic happens, because this pandemic better be over by the time this building is built. So when the next pandemic happens, I would imagine if it's a pandemic that is spread in the same way that COVID was spread, then you're going to have reduced capacity. But the whole world will have reduced capacity. So no, we're planning sort of normal
Mhm.
seating in here. Okay, so we're going to have a lectern and then table seating. So then we're going to have a bunch of tables and they're going to be stored in a closet. And then when we're making scarves or we're making baskets or we're having a meeting where we're taking notes or whatever, we'll be able to set up tables and put chairs around them. There's like no shelving or permanent collections or anything like that stored in this room. We do enough sort of programming with people moving around that we want to be able to have an empty space when we need an empty space. So there's a wall clock, there's high-speed internet and data ports, there's a microphone and a retractable built-in projection screen or a blank wall for projection or a flat screen television. There's a built-in sound system that can project into the overflow in the lobby reception area. There's a ceiling mounted data projector. It used to take us an hour and a half to set up for movie night. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. There are room darkening shades to accommodate programming. There are picture hanging devices to exhibit artwork. So we'll have art shows in this room. Let's see. Oh, I've got the projection screen in there twice. And I think people have told me that several times. So I'm going to take one out. Okay. We don't need two of those. And the sound system's in there twice too. Okay. Okay. Let's see. And there are wall mounted and floor mounted electrical outlets. This is close to the restrooms, a kitchenette, the entrance and exit. It's accessible after normal library hours. The room will be close to the lobby with sliding doors that open into the reception area of the library to accommodate overflow. And then we'll have an exterior program space, and this room will open into that too. Let's see, it's distant from quiet reading areas and the children's room, although we changed that. We're gonna have it be close to the children's room and just close far from quiet areas. It's 700 square feet. It has resilient flooring with cushioning. So this building is likely going to be built on a concrete slab. And we want to be able to comfortably do fitness classes and movement classes in this room. So you can put cushioning under the resilient flooring so that we're not basically sitting on cold concrete. Dimmable overhead lighting. The room's accessible when the library is closed with access to restrooms, secure locks between the meeting room and the remainder of the library, windows, natural lighting, ventilation, and then storage for the tables, chairs, the lectern. So all that stuff can get put away. And, you know, like over at Town Hall, those tables are just leaning against the wall. Sometimes they fall. Good acoustical separation between the program room and the library, and then wide openings into the exterior program and the interior programming space. Weatherproof exterior doors, soundproof interior doors. So any other questions about this area? No? Okay. All righty. So now we're going to do the teen area. So, you know, teens are going to hang out here. They're going to do their homework. They're going to hang out with their friends. They're going to browse the books. They're going to game, and they're going to relax and socialize. There'll be room for 8 teenagers. There will be 4 upholstered chairs and 1 small table with 4, you know, chairs that go to a table. My teen volunteer said to me today, do not have a couch in the teen room because teens, it's not what you're thinking. It's not. And I was really glad. I mean, I wasn't going to have a couch in the teen room anyway, but teens, if there's somebody sitting on the couch and another teen comes in and they don't know the person sitting on the couch, they're not going to sit next to them. So it's, and I already wasn't going to have a couch because of what you were thinking. But that was really good. That was really good to get that insight from a teen. And she's right. you know, and I would think the same is true with most adults. If you're, you know,
Yeah.
if you're at a park and there's somebody sitting on a bench, you don't usually sit down with them. You go find another bench. So, all right, so there's going to be a book capacity of 1,500. It's about double what we have now. And so that requires 40 linear feet of shelving. It'll be close to the circulation desk, distant from the dedicated quiet spaces. It'll be about 200 square feet. And then those architectural details. So we're always telling the architect what we want, you know, that we want to be able to see this place. And we want it to be able to have some soundproofing, so some double wide doors or a sliding door or some way, and then, you know, like a half wall, then that's glass that goes to the ceiling. We want the windows to have shades. We want it to have electrical outlets and lighting and good acoustical separation. Any questions about the teen room?
I have a
No?
question.
Okay.
Are you planning to have the shelves be up to a certain height, but not really tall so that sight lines will be obvious?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, like, is there room to have the shelves only be up to 3 feet or 4 feet or something like that?
So I'm actually sort of picturing that the shelving would be outside the room. Because adults use young adult collections, and I don't want adults to feel like they shouldn't go into the space.
There's a lot
And
of
so,
reasons.
you know, and so I'm thinking that the shelving would be like sort of on the sides on the exterior of the room.
Great.
And, you know, and then we'll have to see. But yes, you know, we want to make sure that the shelving doesn't interfere with sight lines. And so I want to write that in here. I want to say, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna stop. Oh, Les, you had a question.
Yes,
You again.
You muted.
Muted
Uh,
yourself.
yeah, I can never, it says mute, unmute. Okay, I have to ask this. I apologize in advance, but my wife and I are in our 70s. You know, and we had a teenage daughter when we moved into Shutesbury. She went through the, you know, the middle school, the high school. When she was younger and we lived in other places, we loved the children's sections of libraries. I don't understand what the need is for a teen young adult room. So could you please patiently explain to me what the need is?
So the need is the same, you know, the need is the same thing. They need a place to hang out. They need that's separate from little kids and removed from the adults because they act like teenagers. They need a collection that's specific to them. They need facilities that are designed to accommodate their type of activities. You know, libraries are designed, we're going to have an adult quiet reading area, an adult computer area. Brad, did you want to chime in here?
My daughter just has gone off to college, but I still remember very much when she was of the age and wanted and needed a young adult section. And I remember the time when she was younger than that and needed the children's section, and there was very different stages of her life, very different sets of people she would meet with, very different books and materials that she would look for. And so when we had the opportunity to do it, we really appreciated finding spaces that served that kind of use for her.
Any other questions?
I still don't get it. Sorry.
Well, maybe because you're not a teenager. So,
Maybe he
you
had
know.
a very mature teenager who was
May-
like an adult, but most of them are not.
right,
Yeah,
right.
I was an OLA student, president student council, blah, 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 blah. But we found, growing up, spaces and places for us to hang out with our friends, junior high school, high school. So that's my quandary. That's my question. That's my confusion.
And where in Shutesbury, if you were a middle school or a high school student, would you hang out with your friends?
After school, at at each, parents' home, at their places, at their homes.
All right, well, thanks for your input. I'm going to go on to the next.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to share something else now. Alrighty, so let me find it. Okay, so the children's room, so there are small spaces like the small study room and the lobby, and even the circulation desk. I think of those as sort of small things that are kind of easy to think about what you would need and envision. And then the bigger things that involve more, that sort of involve more thinking and number crunching. I just wanted to sort of explain a little bit of how I envisioned this children's space in a small public library. Because it's a lot of work and there's a lot that goes into it. And I thought it would be good to kind of go over it before I then showed you the children's room. So first I evaluated the current collection and usage. And so in our children's collection, we have 3,787 items. And then our recent circulation, you can see, goes between 8,000 and almost 11,000 items in the last 3 years.
Wow.
So our children's book circulation is double or even nearly triple our current holdings. And Carolyn, I think you probably know that that's impressive, right?
It is. I'm very impressed.
Yeah. Okay. So that's I evaluated like what's happening here. What do we have? What's happening here? And then I did some research and comparison to other libraries that are similar to ours. So that the towns are similar in population to ours. And I meant to make this alphabetical order and I didn't for some. I think initially I left Irving at the top because Irving their population is about the same of ours. And they have a really beautiful brand new library, but they've only been open a year and they're just starting to build that new collection. But anyway, so Irving has 4,061 children's books, and their circulation last year, when ours was nearly 11,000, was 3,641. And then Buckland's library is about 10 years old or something like that. And they have 5,000 children's books, and their circulation last year was 1,900. And then Leverett has 6,500 children's books, and their circulation, there's a typo. Their circulation is 7,600. So they're circulating more than what's in their collection. And then West Hampton has almost 9,000 children's books, and their circulation was 8,378. So it's kind of like, so Irving, Leverett, West Hampton, one book, one circulation. And so then I averaged it out. What's the average holding was 6,000 items. And And I thought of that and I compared it to our holdings and our circulation. And then our concerns about scale and economy. And and then I did an evaluation of what's actually in our collection. So we have a good collection of picture books, early readers, chapter books, and graphic novels, but the shelves are full or even at overcapacity. They really are at overcapacity because because the shelves are tight and there's no display space. And there's no room to add new material. So our collections of board books, middle grade fiction, and children's poetry are limited due to lack of space. And our children's nonfiction is very small, only 352 items, and it's painfully inadequate due to space constraints. So I was talking about this to somebody today, and they were like, well, why is that? In an accusatory tone. They weren't really. And when I started as library director, there was 6 linear feet dedicated to children's nonfiction. And then I moved some things around, and now there's 16 square feet dedicated to children's nonfiction. And it's not enough. It is very, very common for children to walk in here and ask for a book on a topic, and we just don't have it. And so, so I've tripled the space and tripled the collection and made it contemporary and relevant. But it's, and then I do a lot of, I've had a lot of science programming and library services training. So I'm good at choosing science-based books for kids. And those collections are updated. But I mean, my God, science is a broad topic, right? But then we have very little in the way of like biography or history or other topics that one might think of in a nonfiction collection, in a children's nonfiction collection. And then our library just completely lacks space for emerging genres such as graphic early readers, which are the newest thing. So I'm recommending a collection size of 7,000 items, and which is about double what we have now. And so then how do we get to that 7,000 items? And so currently we add about 250 children's books a year, which is about 1 or 1.25 children's books per kid in town. And then we also remove about 250 children's books a year because our shelves are full or at overcapacity already. And children always need and want new material. And there is always new material being published. And while all libraries practice weeding, we're forced to weed potentially relevant materials due to lack of space. So if we add approximately 250 items each year while also maintaining the correct collection through best practices, and we could have a whole hour-long program about how you weed a library collection. I could probably talk about it for 2 hours. Anyway, this will allow the collection to grow slowly over time. Okay. What else goes in the children's room? DVDs and audiobooks, at least now they do. That may change. A STEAM activity station. So a number of years ago, I had a grant called STEAM Rolling at the SLU Library. So I teamed up with a few of my colleagues and we did STEAM programming for 3 to 6 year olds, science, technology, engineering, art, and math for 3 to 6 year olds. And we all developed these STEAM activity stations. So I have these great STEAM activity toys and puzzles and things. And I usually put them out one at a time. Of course, none of it is out now. and I was amazed and surprised by how the children interacted with those things, which they had never had anything like that in the library before. And so it would be really nice if that STEAM activity station could be properly displayed and accessible to the kids all the time. A library of things. When we talk about library of things, we're talking about things for children too. So board games and puzzles and puppets and, electronic gizmos, furniture, and then space for small gatherings like a baby group or a story time and free play. And so let's see. So those are all the different things I thought about when I was designing the children's room. Any questions before I share the children's room description?
Did I miss where the story time would take place? I mean,
So
I'm sure
that-
you're gonna
yeah.
have that.
Right, yeah, so there's room in that children's room for story time to happen, okay? So I'm gonna share the children's room now. Here we go, this, okay. All right, so here's the children's room and parenting area. So what happens here? Browsing by children's of all ages, parents and childcare providers. Reader's advisory, reference, study, active and passive activities. Baby groups and preschool story times will take place in this room. Elementary school visits, preschool STEAM activity station. We're imagining 15, people at a time in here. One staff person would, come and go. There's not a public service desk in this room. There are 11 seats. So there are 2 small tables that seat 4 people each. There's a rocker. There are 2 oversized upholstered chairs or small love seats, a wall clock, and then there's an area rug in the story room free play area. There's a display unit for the children's library of things. There's flexible shelving for DVDs and audiobooks. There's a display unit for the STEAM activity station. There are browsing bin style display units for 2,000 picture books, board books, and early readers. So this is something that you're seeing more and more in libraries. So, and we have a little bit of it here where the picture books are face front instead of tiny spines all along the wall, because unless you really know what's in a collection, it's impossible for children and parents to browse picture bookshelf that way. It limits collection use and it limits access to literacy resources for children. So, children are visually orientated. They can't necessarily read, and they certainly can't read words written on a spine like that. So we want to display those picture books face front and those board books face front. Let's see. And then we've got, shelving for other types of children's books, and then some shelving for parenting books, magazines and media. The book capacity is 7,000. There'll be a bulletin board, coat hooks. It'll be close to the circulation desk in the meeting room, distant from the quiet study area and the entrance in the quiet reading area. This room will be 800 square feet. It'll have durable, resilient flooring that's easy to clean. And the shelving, the arrangement of the shelving and the furniture will allow for an open space for story time and free play that's approximately 250 square feet. Large operable windows for natural lighting and ventilation, dimmable overhead lighting, good acoustical separation, and electrical outlets and data ports. And I believe that, yep, that's the end. So does anybody have any questions about the children's room?
Nope.
No, I'm going to stop sharing. And so that was everything I had to share. My goal was to take about an hour. It's 7:12, so I'm over, but I'm happy to answer a few more questions.
I'm just trying to figure out how it would all puzzle together.
Yeah, and then there's more. There are more, probably the same number of spaces again that, and so the good thing is that will be the architect's job to sort of puzzle it together and then show us. And then we say, nah, that we don't like that, do it again. And they're used to that. But I think, and that is something, you know, I think about, like sometimes if I'm designing furniture for a room, I'll get pieces of cardboard and make, you know, have it be the size of the pieces of furniture and put it all down first. And I think there are some people that are good at doing that with computer programming, and, you know, and imagining spaces. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. Thank you, Marianne.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, yeah, good. And I'm going to keep going. I did the exterior entrance today, but I need to run it by somebody else before I, before I add it in to this list. So, and now after going through the children's collection, I feel like I can start to tackle the adult collections. So.
Right. Yeah. And is the paperwork that you were sharing with us, is that available online anywhere, or?
No, when it's all pieces now, like I have there, so the building program, there's the Board of Library Commissioners sent a workbook that's 73 pages. And of course, like that's a workbook that the Boston Public Library would use, right? Like, maybe they'd have to make them their own special workbook, but like the town of Amherst would use the same workbook. So we're working on the parts that apply to a town our size. And then once we've done all of those parts, we'll plunk them all in and then delete the parts that aren't applicable to us. And then we'll post the whole thing when we have a whole draft together. Okay.
Yes.
Because then it will tell a whole story. Okay.
Okay, great.
Good. Okay.
Done a lot of work, a lot of really good work on it. Thank you.
Impressive.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Good.
So for today's Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for Thursday's meeting, will you be continuing with additional area descriptions, room and area descriptions? Do you know what that agenda will be like?
So Thursday's meeting will be the same as tonight. And I don't know that I'm really going to have time. If I have more area descriptions to include, I would include them. But it'll take a day to do the adult collections. And some of the smaller spaces, like I'm going to have to write area descriptions for bathrooms. I'm going to do those last. So I don't know how many, it's Tuesday now, there's Wednesday and then Thursday. I don't know how many area descriptions I'll have time to do. I've been doing this on the weekends, when I'm not running the library. So
when is this due?
Mid-October. So, yeah. So,
once it's submitted, do we have to stick to the plan?
So no. So once it's submitted, so we submit it mid-October, and then the Board of Library, so we submit a draft, and then the Board of Library Commissioners, so Lauren and Andrea, who are the construction specialists with the Board of Library Commissioners, will read it, and then they'll send us feedback. And then we'll look at their feedback, and I'll argue with them some, and then we'll we won't be arguing, we'll have lively conversations. And I'll explain my thinking, and then they'll say, put it in the plan. And then I'll be like, oh, you're right. That is a good idea. So we'll have a dialogue, and then I'll make adjustments to it. And then it will become part of the grant application, which is due December 3rd.
Oh, okay. So that's the more.
And then, yes, and then it will be kind of like, that's the plan that goes to the architects. Then if we get the grant and town meeting approves the funding,
Right.
then we make a building committee and we hire architects. And then it might be that a room that it says is 200 square feet ends up being 210 square feet, and something else is 190 square feet, or two areas get combined, or something like that, or, and because when we start putting those pieces together in the puzzle, all of these things may not be possible. There will have to be trade-offs, right? But the gross square footage, so say if it's a 10,000 square foot library, which it's not going to be a 10,000 square foot library, but I just wanted to pick a round number. It'll be 5 or 10% above or below that. So,
Right.
okay. So, it's going to be close to that gross square footage number that this program describes.
Right.
And it's going to have, it's interesting. I have Irving's building program, and they have one small study room in their building program, but they have two in there. Oh, well, that's, let me think. No, they call it something else. So they have, so anyway, all right. Well, thank you, Brad. Thanks for being here. But anyway, there will be, the building program and the final building. It's kind of like that idea of architects make a schematic design,
Mhm.
and then the building that's actually built is quite different from the schematic design.
Sure.
So most of the elements will be there, and it will be close to the size described, and it'll have all of the services described, but it's a living document that
Right.
that then has to have practical implications.
Okay.
And then
Good.
everything will be designed to be flexible, so that in
Mhm.
another 10 years, when library services have evolved yet again, this new facility can evolve to accommodate those other
Right.
types.
Right. Yeah. Good. Good. Thank you.
You're gonna go? All right, you're not gonna mute yourself and then unmute yourself again? Okay. All right. It is just, I think I'm on Zoom more than you, but everybody does it. Everybody
Yes.
fiddles around with that mute button. So, okay. All right.
Oh, good night.
Good night.
Good
All right.
night.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Good night.
All right.
Thank
Yep.
you, Mary Ann.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.